just as Ahab, the king there, who's the evilest of all the kings before him, is going after Elijah, we can see that Elijah in type came before Jesus Christ and they killed him. They're going to go after these two men and they're going to kill them. What do you think when we see these two men on the news? And I guarantee you they will be on the news. You don't have to worry about a budget, how much they can spend. They're going to be out there and everybody on this earth is going to be looking for them. Because the whole planet is going to revolve around what they just said. There'll be no rain for these times. Now that just gives you an idea of what's coming. And you and I are going to have to say, they're right. They're absolutely right. And because they hate them, they're going to hate you. They're going to hate us because why? They hated Jesus Christ. And He said if they hate me, they're going to hate you. And you will have to stand for what you believe. Now, Elijah had to stand for what he believed. And yet, not too long after where we're at, he's running for his life. There's some lessons for you and I. And that's why I wanted to go to Elijah first, as the first public enemy, number one, of Satan in this series that we'll cover. Let's go back now to Elijah. Verse 10. All right, so now he's commanded to leave because there's no water in the brook. And he's sent to, verse 10. So he arose and he went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, there was a widow there who was gathering sticks. And she called to her and he said, fetch me, I pray you, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, bring me, I pray you, a morsel of bread in your hand. What's interesting that here's a man of God, just walk in, here's a total stranger. Hey, go get me this, go get me that. How would you feel if somebody came to your home and did that to you? Well, you talk to your kids, say, get it yourself. What do you mean, bring it to you? But here he is, he's out there, go get this for me. And as she was going to fetch it, in verse 12, and she said, as the Lord lives, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, now I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go and prepare it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. Now he's just been told, this lady has no food. The little bit that she has, there's no hope that she's going to get anything else to eat. The famine is that bad. She's going to die, her and her son. Now you would think that would move to compassion. He said, well, don't worry about it. Y'all go ahead and eat. That's an incredible story when I first read this. And I was really young when I first read it. It's like, man, how can a man do that? How can he put this poor woman and her child out and they're going to die because they don't have any more food? And he took this approach which I thought was so selfish. How could he do that? Ask her to go, look what let the Bible tell you what it says. So Elijah said unto her, fear not, go and do as you have said, but make me a little cake first. She just told him they got just enough for her and the son and she's going to die. Now, don't worry about it, just go make me a cake first. And that's the way I read it years ago when I first read it. I'll tell you what I didn't understand back then. God allowed her a chance to express her faith, to give her life. Now, I wanted to bring that out because you see, when things get real bad, people looking for jobs, looking for food, looking for hope, nowhere to live, holding fast to God, He's going to let you go to that point to test and try your faith. And if you hold fast, inside of each one of us, God will build in His capacity, in His way, where our food and our drink never runs out. Sometimes He has to bring us to the point of this woman. But He knew her faith. And because she did that, let's go on. But make me a little cake first, and bring it to me, and afterwards make me for you and your son. But thus says the Lord God of Israel, the barren of the meal shall not be used up, and neither shall the curse of oil fail until the day that the Lord sends rain upon this earth. How could she possibly know that? How in the world could she possibly have known that? I mean, that's not normal. I don't know if that's ever happened before in history, what just took place right here. And He's asking her to trust Him by giving Him her food. Now, that's incredible faith. But she believed Him. She understood, and she did it for what she said. She went and did according to Elijah, and she set her in her house, and she did eat for many days. And the barrel of the meal was not used up, and neither did the curse fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke by Elijah. I bring this out for another reason. After the Hurricane Katrina, those who were here, and we were here quite often, people knocked on that door many times, looking for food, looking for help, looking for water, looking for anything we could give them. Rest assured, those who are alive before and during the tribulation are going to be challenged in what you have to share with those who have not. We need to make up our minds where we will stand. What faith will God give us to be able to help those who don't? When you're down to, well, how do I deal with this? I have just enough for me and my son. And somebody says, look, I need some help. Where will we stand? Those are tough questions. Now, those were hypothetical questions in my mind for years until Hurricane Katrina. Then they became real. Those people down in Haiti, I guarantee there's a lot of them making those choices today. Where do they stand as they wait for help to come in? And what we went through is nothing compared to what they're going to go through down there and how long that's going to be. Now, let's pick up the story a little bit further. Verse 17. So it came to pass after those things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick. And his sickness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Elijah, what have I to do with you, O man of God? And are you coming to me to call my sins to remembrance? She didn't blame Elijah, she blamed herself. She knew who she was. She had this humble spirit that was in her, and she knew her past. He said, did you bring up my past here because of my sins and take it out of my son? I thought that's a remarkable, compassionate story. Because most of the time, people want to blame somebody else for the misery they get into. In other words, if you wouldn't have been here, this wouldn't have happened. And that's what most people think. But this lady didn't go that way. She went inside, searching inside herself and finding out her faults and her sins that haunted her from the past, and believed that Elijah brought him back and cursed her son because of what she did. And he said to her, give me your son. And he took him from her bosom and carried him up into the loft where he made abode and laid him upon his own bed. And he cried to the Lord and said, O Lord my God, you have also brought evil upon the woman whom I sojourned by slaying her son. And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and he cried to the Lord and said, O Lord my God, I pray to you, let the child's soul come to him again. The Lord heard his voice of Elijah, and the soul of his son came back to him again and revived him. And Elijah took the child and brought him down to the chamber into the house and delivered him to his mother. And Elijah said, see, your son lives. And the woman said to Elijah, by this I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord is in your mouth is true. Now he was the type of Elijah leading his way to Jesus Christ, which means to tell us by the time that John the Baptist was there that the Jesus Christ was the one that gives life. So we see that going forward. The 2 witnesses are bringing the same message, but the world won't understand. Is when they die, they lay in the street for 3 days. And we could see that Jesus Christ would return. And they raised up from the street where they lie for 3 days. Now, I always thought it was interesting. They said, no, we don't know the day and the hour when he comes. But when you see those 2 men dead, you know you got 3 days left. You can get it down to 3 days. That's about as close as you're going to get. Because they're going to be resurrected. So when you see they're dead, then you know it's real close. Of course, by that time, it could be pretty rough, but you'll know where you stand at that point. Now let's pick up the story some more in chapter 18. There's a few more aspects of his life I want to bring out that people don't really talk about. Look in chapter 18, verse 1. So it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, go show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain upon this earth. So Elijah went to show himself to Ahab, and there was a severe famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, who was the governor of the house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. And for it was so that when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, that Obadiah took 100 of the prophets, and he hid them by 50 in a cave, and he fed them with bread and water. So here's a man who loved God's people. He loved God's prophets, the priesthood, and he took and he went and hid them when Jezebel was killing all those people. And he put his life on the line to go save them.